Hello, beloved soul. You've been going through a period of deep questioning lately, haven't you? There's a persistent, unsettling flatness to your days. The things that used to genuinely stir your heart and fill you with excitement now feel muted, almost irrelevant. And sometimes, in the quietest moments, a nagging worry creeps in. Is this a sign of spiritual failure, or perhaps something deeper is wrong with your spirit? This unexpected void, this strange lack of enthusiasm, can be incredibly disorienting when you're used to a certain level of emotional vibrancy. But what if I told you this emptiness is not a spiritual retreat, but a sacred advancement? It is the clear, unmistakable signature of God initiating a powerful transformation inside you. This is the holy, silent recalibration of a soul marked for a higher purpose. The great internal reset, why the world lost its color chosen one. There is an inevitable, profound transition point in your spiritual life where the vibrant colors of the ordinary world seem to drain away. Suddenly, the witty conversation that once captivated you now feels hollow and draining. The activities, even the spiritual routines that used to spark undeniable energy, now only stir a mild, almost indifferent reaction. Even simple comforts, the things you relied on for a lift, feel oddly distant, as though they no longer resonate with the person you are becoming. This is often followed by a wave of confusion, a legitimate fear that asks, where did my passion go? Why do I feel like a stranger to myself? The truth is, you are not undergoing a collapse. You are in the midst of a meticulous, divine reconstruction. This seeming disappearance of joy is, in reality, the systematic removal of every false, fragile emotional support system that was never designed to hold the weight of your eternal spirit. God is intentionally peeling away the superficial, the temporary, and the artificial, so that you are forced to confront and embrace what is truly authentic within you. He is pulling the plug on emotional quick fixes, not to inflict pain, but to usher you into the only sustainable, profound joy that originates from Him alone. This numbness is not a shutdown. It is a sacred, necessary reset, a complete, holy realignment of your spiritual core. Heaven is working on you in secret, setting your internal world in order, preparing you for a depth of spiritual responsibility and maturity that is uncommon. The reason this phase feels so challenging is that many misunderstand it, thinking they are falling apart when they are actually shedding layers of the temporary self. The emptiness you perceive is merely the spaciousness being cleared for an infusion of something enduring and far more powerful than what you've had before. Before we dive into the next layers of this spiritual mystery, if this message is resonating with your soul's current experience, take a moment to like this video, subscribe for more encouragement, and type 777 below. In the language of the Spirit, 777 signifies divine completion and absolute perfection. Your declaration that you trust the process and are ready for the finished work. The signal of waking up, outgrowing the temporary when all sources of earthly, external happiness begin to dry up. Your mind's immediate, almost programmed response is panic. The internal monologue is relentless. I'm broken. I'm losing my faith. I'm disconnected. You naturally start measuring your current, quiet self against the vibrant, easily excitable version of who you used to be, the person who found pleasure in small, easily accessible plans and was always on. That former self now feels like a ghost from a past life. But pay attention, because this feeling is the absolute opposite of malfunction. It is a powerful signal. It is not evidence of your soul's decay. It is irrefutable proof that your spirit is awakening and developing an intolerance for the small. You are actively, relentlessly outgrowing the environments, the connections, and the emotional pacifiers that were only meant to be a temporary shelter, not a permanent home. What once fueled your emotional life can no longer sustain the elevated spiritual being you are rapidly becoming. So the quiet separation process begins, initiated by God. You find yourself in places that once felt like a rush, but now you feel an odd, sober neutrality, a profound, almost sacred indifference. Things that used to command your focus now feel intellectually or emotionally small. The same old routines, the same circle of people, the same predictable jokes, but you are utterly, fundamentally different. This shift is not you becoming emotionally cold. It is your spirit developing a refined, zero-tolerance policy for everything that no longer aligns with your divine assignment. Your inner standards are being dramatically upgraded. Old motives, such as the desperate need to people, please, the constant craving for external praise, or the exhausting effort to prove your worth to strangers, no longer feel worth a single ounce of your energy. A subtle but unmistakable whisper rises from your core, declaring, "There must be a greater purpose than this." This inner agitation is not restlessness. It is the Holy Spirit calling you away from the shallow, easily entertained life and into the profound, unsearchable depths of God's presence. This marks the spiritual stage where your soul stops reacting to superficial, momentary excitement and starts deeply, desperately craving the elements it was originally engineered for: authenticity, truth, meaningful impact, and perfect alignment. You notice a physical and spiritual exhaustion from toxic gossip. Meaningless, petty drama becomes an absolute irritant. Endless scrolling on devices leaves you feeling spiritually malnourished and sick. Moments of true solitude, which once felt awkward or lonely, now feel absolutely essential, like drawing a clean breath of air. Your preference shifts naturally. You choose honesty over quick entertainment, stillness over constant noise, and authentic being over the exhausting need for human approval. It is not that your life has suddenly become boring. It is that the previous surface-level way of living has become unbearably small for the enormous potential God has placed within your soul. He is implementing a detox of your focus, a purification of your spiritual appetite, and a cleansing of your capacity for joy. You are not losing joy itself. You are losing the counterfeits of joy, the easily accessed, fragile substitutes. And yes, the loss of these familiar crutches feels like a genuine, heavy grief, because the counterfeits felt so convincingly real when you didn't know the difference. You are grieving the loss of former selves and emotional habits that once served as a perceived safety net. If you could only view your life through the lens of heaven, you would clearly see that God is not taking anything of true value from you. He is expertly protecting you from foolishly constructing your future on emotional responses that were fundamentally unstable. He is ensuring that your coming season is not dictated by what momentarily stimulates you, but powerfully driven by what eternally transforms you, and the intensity deepens here. This internal shift, this holy cleansing you're experiencing, is only the preliminary stage. Because even as your external comforts fade, something monumentally greater is being secretly activated within you. In a moment, we will explore exactly what God is quietly unlocking through this inexplicable, difficult emptiness you are facing. Stripping the illusions, activating divine discernment, chosen one, there is a distinct, non-negotiable point in your spiritual development where God systematically begins to withdraw every illusion you once mistakenly believed was genuine happiness. This withdrawal is not a dramatic event. It is gentle, silent, like the slow, deliberate dimming of lights in a theater where you were completely unaware you were merely watching a show. A great deal of the happiness you felt previously was not true, lasting joy. It was emotional self-medication. It was the temporary relief gained from hastily trying to fill your internal, spiritual gaps with external, easily accessed distractions. You believed you were living a fulfilling life, but in reality, you were applying a soothing balm to unhealed wounds. You thought specific connections made you whole, but they were merely a distraction from your deep-seated loneliness. You thought certain habits sparked passion, but they were just a short-lived anesthetic for your underlying emptiness. As you steadily mature in the Spirit, God starts to brightly illuminate these weak, unstable substitutes. Suddenly, trivial entertainment cannot hold your attention for more than a few minutes. Shallow, one-sided connections drain your life force instead of fueling your spirit. Intense emotional highs feel suspiciously fleeting and unstable, always requiring more. When these comforting, familiar illusions begin to disintegrate, the process can feel jarring and brutal. It can feel like God has inexplicably extinguished your inner light, that some vital part of your essence has gone missing, or that your spiritual system is failing. However, a completely different, powerful spiritual action is taking place. God is not turning off your inner light. He is dramatically boosting your discernment. He is removing the distracting noise so that, for the first time, you can truly hear the pure voice of your spirit. He is taking away all emotional training wheels, so you are forced to stand firmly on truth. He is exposing every fragile imitation of peace, so you can instantly recognize the profound, non-dependent nature of the authentic peace he provides. This purification process initially feels like devastating loss. You find yourself wondering why music no longer moves you to the same degree, why conversations that once ignited you now feel utterly meaningless. You sit in environments that used to fill you with excitement and feel a profound, strange disconnection, as though you are observing a life that is no longer yours. But here is the critical, hidden truth. The reality of the supernatural is starting to whisper to you in a frequency that the natural, ordinary world can no longer compete with. God is cleansing your emotional palate so you can finally, deeply taste what is pure and authentic. He is dismantling the patterns of addiction that kept your spiritual awareness dulled. He is severing the attachments that were never meant to accompany you into your destiny. Illusions, by their nature, are comfortable and predictable. They never demand radical growth. But illusions also carry no lasting truth. God simply refuses to let his chosen vessels navigate their critical life assignment guided by false comforts and insecure identities. So, he gently reveals the true motives behind people you once idealized. He exposes the ultimate emptiness beneath activities you once chased. He dismantles the fragile dreams that were born from old wounds instead of divine wisdom. While it feels intensely like your life is spiraling apart, what is truly happening is that everything false, weak, and unstable is falling away from you. This phase is not a divine punishment. It is a sacred, necessary purification. It is a thorough spiritual cleansing of your inner reality, removing the clutter that kept your spirit short-sighted and perpetually chasing the next thing. When God removes illusions, it is because he is preparing to reveal something utterly real, something profoundly stable, something absolutely eternal. He is preparing you for a quality of joy that does not evaporate with a shift in circumstance. A quality of peace that is not dependent on the behavior of anyone else, a sense of purpose that does not shatter under the pressure of the world. Just when you fear he has taken too much, the real, true, unshakable version of you begins to emerge. In a moment, chosen one, we will step into the next, most intense layer of this mystery, the sacred process of the wilderness, recalibrating your soul's foundation, chosen one. Every soul marked by the divine will eventually enter a landscape that defies cartography. It is not a place you can hike to, nor a desert you can cross on a physical map. Yet, it feels more profoundly real than any physical location you have ever been. This is the wilderness of the soul, an inner expanse where the deafening noise of the world is muted, familiar emotional comforts vanish, and every former source of easy satisfaction falls utterly silent. Initially, the experience is one of profound, disorienting loss. You observe your life, and nothing holds the same flavor. Your established interests feel flattened. Your energy is different. The environments that once provided a sense of belonging now feel strangely alien. It is as if God has tenderly, but firmly, extracted you from your old reality and placed you in a unique space where no external thing can influence your spirit the way it once did. And this is the central point. The wilderness is not divine isolation. It is divine recalibration. In this sacred, stark silence, God begins the crucial work of severing every unhealthy dependency you didn't even realize was controlling you. He breaks your dependence on constant excitement, those shallow adrenaline spikes you used to chase merely to feel something, anything. He breaks your dependence on emotional highs, the constant craving to feel inspired, overwhelmed, or intensely moved. He breaks your dependence on spiritual sensationalism, those moments where you mistakenly equated goosebumps with the presence of God, forgetting His presence is profound, steady, and far deeper than any feeling. Most significantly, He breaks your dependence on other people, their energy, their approval, their validation, their constant presence. In this wilderness, God strips away all external scaffolding, not to make you weak, but to ensure that the foundation of your spirit is no longer built on anything fragile. When the emotional support is removed, your spirit has no choice but to stand firmly on truth rather than fleeting thrills. You start the transformative practice of walking by faith, a faith that is not governed by your mood, your emotional reaction, or any external stimulus. You start to discover that God's presence is often not loud, dramatic, or wrapped in intensity. Sometimes His truest presence is a quiet, imperturbable weight, a stable, unshakable knowing, a profound calm that does not rise or fall with the volatility of your circumstances. You realize with life-altering clarity that God's constancy does not depend on your feelings, and consequently, neither should your faith. The wilderness becomes your ultimate training ground. It is the crucible where false identities are burned away and your true God-given identity is revealed. It is the detox center where your soul is cleansed of emotional chaos and attuned to spiritual clarity. It is the place where the superficial version of you dies a gentle, necessary death, and the unbreakable, God-anchored version is born. This is where true, lasting stability is forged. Not the kind that depends on perfect days, but the profound, enduring kind that remains unshaken in the center of the storm. This is where your identity is fortified, not the identity built on what you do, but the identity immovably rooted in who you are in God. This is where your spiritual foundations become impossibly strong, because they are built directly, meticulously, by the hand of the one who called you. And while the wilderness feels like the peak of isolation, it is precisely the place where heaven draws the closest. When you literally have nothing left to lean on, you are finally, truly compelled to lean on Him. When the surrounding, distracting voices fall utterly silent, you finally learn to recognize and distinguish His sovereign whisper. When the familiar comforts fade, you finally see the spiritual reality that was invisible to you all along. But here is the profound mystery that troubles many chosen ones. The wilderness doesn't just change your environment, it radically changes your appetite. The fleeting things you once pursued no longer hold any temptation for you. The compromises you once tolerated now actively disturb your spirit. The paths you once ran toward now feel like spiritual chains. If you think this shift in tolerance is intense, wait until you witness what begins to awaken inside your soul once the wilderness has fully completed its holy work. Growing deep, the shift from sensation to substance, chosen one of the most widespread, damaging misunderstandings during this deep spiritual transition is the belief that emotional quietude or silence equates to spiritual backsliding. You notice that the intense, consuming fire you once felt, the overwhelming waves of emotion during worship, prayer, or simple reflection, have receded, and your spiritual adversary, the enemy, is quick to capitalize on this, whispering his destructive lies. You're growing cold. You've lost your connection. You are not the powerful person you used to be. But listen to this truth with the full conviction of your spirit. You are not growing cold. You are growing deep. This phase that feels like a spiritual drought is not God withdrawing His presence from you. It is God purposefully drawing you deeper into the immutable reality of who He is. Dryness is not a sign of distance. It is a critical stage of spiritual development. It represents the crucial shift from spiritual infancy, where God communicated through easy, emotional confirmation, the milk, to spiritual maturity, where he strengthens you with spiritual substance, the solid food. He is expertly balancing your emotional state so that you are no longer tossed around by spiritual highs and lows, like a rudderless ship caught in unpredictable waves. He is teaching your soul how to stand firmly anchored, steadily grounded, and imperturbable, even when your feelings are completely silent. In your earlier days of faith, God often engaged you through sensational emotions, tears, a powerful sense of warmth, excitement, or profound shivers. These were his loving, gentle way of reassuring you, I am absolutely here with you. But as your soul matures, God elevates the level of trust and demands a deeper truth. His presence is not dependent on your sensory experience. His guidance is not conditional upon your goosebumps. His nearness is not measurable by intensity. Therefore, the intensity of the emotions begins to quieten, not because you are losing sensitivity, but because you are gaining the invaluable gift of maturity. You are being upgraded from a reliance on emotional awareness to a profound, unwavering spiritual awareness. Your source of joy is shifting from temporary, external moments to foundational, internal meaning, from short-lived external sparks to internal, absolute certainty, from fleeting external reactions to long, lasting, unshakable revelation. You start to understand that true joy is not the rush you feel when something exciting occurs. It is the unassailable, profound peace that resides deeply within you even, or especially, when nothing overtly exciting is happening at all. You observe yourself changing in ways that are subtle, yet immensely powerful. You stop chasing noise and begin to recognize the ultimate value in stillness. You stop being fascinated by chaos and start actively craving clarity. You stop seeking emotional fireworks and begin seeking divine, perfect alignment. What once had the power to overwhelm you now barely registers. What used to tempt you now feels fundamentally beneath you. What once served as a primary distraction now feels utterly irrelevant to your core purpose. This is not numbness. This is spiritual evolution. This is your spirit learning to draw its strength and sustenance without needing a storm to prove its survival or a spotlight to feel important. This profound neutrality, the balanced, quiet, and stable center you are entering, is not an empty void. It is the rich soil where your truest, most sustainable joy will finally take root and flourish. Because this neutrality is not the absence of emotion, it is the powerful, sustaining presence of stability. And stability is the singular element God builds immediately before he elevates a chosen one into their next, highest spiritual dimension. You are not losing your holy fire. You are learning how to wield it with precision, how to carry it without allowing it to consume you from the inside out. You are not losing your passion. You are learning how to perfectly aim it instead of letting it scatter your energy in every direction. You are not losing your connection to God. You are discovering the profound version of his constant presence that does not depend on you feeling anything at all. The unstealable joy, life after the silence and here, is the astonishing twist that most chosen ones do not anticipate. This long period of inner quietness is not the final stage of your transformation. It is the deep, spiritual calm before something inside you ignites in a way that will completely, permanently restructure your life. After this phase of sacred neutrality completes its work, heaven begins the careful planting of a joy, a strength, and a spiritual clarity so powerful that nothing in your former life could have remotely prepared you for it. Chosen one, when this season of internal silence and recalibration finally reaches its divine completion, something extraordinary begins to rise within you. It does not announce itself with a trumpet blast. It rises with a depth and purity that you have never felt before. It is initially subtle, like a soft, steady glow originating from your very core. A sense of profound clarity appears without any external explanation. A foundational peace enters your being without needing to be invited. And before you can fully articulate what has happened, you notice the undeniable miracle. Your joy has returned, but this is not the old joy. It is not the fragile joy that was contingent on outside stimulation, emotional fireworks, or constant validation. It is not the joy that dramatically rose and fell with your circumstances. This new joy is fundamentally different. This joy is quiet, deeply rooted, and perfectly pure. This joy is absolutely stable, and therefore it is utterly impossible to steal. It does not require stirring music to move your soul. It does not depend on other people to validate or complete you. It does not require external excitement to spark your life. It does not rely on achievement or success to confirm your worth. It comes from one sovereign place and one place only, God. His truth, His presence, and His peace are now immovably anchored deep inside your spirit, and this is where the miracle is complete. This new joy does not fade. It does not evaporate when pressure is applied. It does not collapse when the world around you goes wrong. It requires no constant external recharging because it is not fueled by anything of this earth. It is living, it is rooted, and it is entirely sustained by heaven itself. You start to notice that you no longer wake up in the morning searching for something, a person, a plan, an event, to make you feel alive. You wake up already alive. You no longer chase people who never had the spiritual capacity to understand your destiny. You are completely content whether they remain or depart. You no longer feel the desperate need to escape your reality to find meaning or purpose. You carry the meaning within you as a foundation. This new state of being feels like profound strength disguised as serenity. It feels like divine wisdom wrapped in a coat of unshakable peace. It feels like your purpose is humming beneath your skin, guiding every single step, even when the physical path ahead is completely unclear. This is the joy that comes from truly knowing who you are in God, and simultaneously, clearly knowing who you no longer have to be for anyone else. And this is the part that profoundly transforms most chosen ones. This joy makes no demands for attention. It doesn't need to loudly announce itself. It simply is. It becomes the quiet, non-negotiable center of your inner world, the compass for all your decisions, and the absolute foundation of your self-worth. You enter a stage of spiritual maturity where joy is no longer something you chase or something you desperately pray to feel. God Himself becomes your joy, and when God is your joy, nothing in this fallen world has the capacity to take it away. This is the single, powerful truth the long silence was preparing you for all along. The quiet, the isolation, the internal drought, the strange emotional stillness, none of it was ever punishment. It was meticulous, divine preparation. It was God removing the fragile, easily broken, unstable versions of joy you once clung to, so He could replace them with a single, unstealable joy that is strong enough to carry you through every single season of your profound calling. And now, chosen one, as this deeper joy begins to actively awaken inside your core, something far more dynamic is about to unfold, because the moment joy becomes your unshakable foundation, your destiny begins to move in ways you are finally ready to receive and hold. A new spiritual landscape, chosen one, everything you have so bravely navigated, the silence, the strange emptiness, the fading of old interests, the unsettling neutrality, was not a spiritual collapse. It was a clear divine summons, a calling from heaven that was actively pulling you out of the life you used to fit into and preparing you for the much larger, more significant life you were always destined to carry. If nothing is making you happy anymore, please understand this fundamental truth. This is not the end of your joy. It is the sacred rebirth of it. God has been strategically, quietly, and deliberately reshaping you, not in the places visible to the world, but in the deepest, unseen places of your spirit. He has been removing the temporary so He can deliver the eternal. He has been emptying your hands of their feeble attempts at happiness so He can powerfully fill your spirit with Himself. He has been silencing the external noise so that you can finally hear His voice without any interference. What you mistakenly thought was emotional decline was in fact an incredible spiritual elevation. What you feared was spiritual regression, was the exact doorway to revelation. What you were worried was abandonment, was a meticulous, divine alignment. You were not losing joy, you were losing everything that was too small, too weak, and too fragile for the magnitude of your destiny. You were stripped of counterfeits so you could receive the genuine. You were pulled away from noise so you could walk into clarity. You were intentionally separated from the old version of yourself so that the true, chosen, and unbreakable version could finally, fully rise. Chosen one, you are not the same person who began reading this message. Something has powerfully awakened inside you while you were receiving this truth. The dryness you felt was not death. It was God burning away everything that could not carry the holy, weighty responsibility of your calling. And now you stand on the precipice of a brand new spiritual landscape, one built not on fickle emotion, but on immutable truth, not on momentary stimulation, but on unshakable identity, not on temporary joy, but on eternal, sovereign purpose. God is actively giving you a peace that will not tremble, a strength that will not crack under pressure, a clarity that does not depend on a single circumstance in your physical world. And when this profound transformation is perfectly complete, when the work He is doing inside you fully and gorgeously blossoms, you will look back at this strange, quiet season and utter these words with a sacred, deep understanding. Nothing made me happy because God was making me whole.